So just share a little bit about why I decided to join politics. I went to school in Singapore in the 1980s and 90s. And although it was hard to believe it now, I seem to forever be in school, but school actually wasn't easy for me. My mother would always tell me that I had to study hard. And since I've not gone out of school, she probably regrets that. But what I went through really is nothing compared to the pressure cooker that kids today must endure. They go to school from the morning to the afternoon, extra tuition, supplementary classes, CCAs, even PSLE exam questions become memes. And of course, this shows, right? Internationally, Singapore boasts one of the world's best performing school systems. But the question I want to ask is, what has this focus on outcomes actually brought us in terms of opportunities? Young graduates are often becoming drivers for hire, delivery boys. Those that enter the workforce complain of stiff competition and wages that fall below their expectations. What future does that leave us when, in spite of our world-class education, our graduates are choosing jobs with little or no future, or are dissatisfied with their career trajectories? Why isn't the system promised to us producing the kind of world-class companies that smaller and perhaps less well-off countries such as Israel or Estonia are able to produce? I believe that we have allowed superficial success in our educational system to blind us to the fact that this system isn't working, and our education system is not preparing our children to actually take on and create the good jobs for the future. I want to ask these kind of questions for the sake of my 8-month-old daughter, but I also want to ask it for the sake of all children. I do not wish to leave behind a legacy where the next generation just feels unprepared to confront the future, even though they have done exactly all that we have asked them to do. I think that the educational system that we currently have is one that still, in spite of our best efforts, overemphasize the ability to reproduce a certain type of model answer. And even though we've tried to probe creativity a little bit, we try to structure that kind of creativity rather than allow creativity to emerge organically. So what we have is a teaching core that often pushes the students, but then are not as willing to accept questions that happen to be on the margins, or rather answers that happen to be on the margins of what is acceptable. And I think what this really requires is an entire change in mindset. The WP, up till now, we have always stressed that it's important to understand that we are all loyal oppositions. What we want ultimately is the best of Singapore, best for Singapore. And the way that we do that is by pushing the margins of what has not been asked, and sometimes cannot even be imagined by the incumbent. And that, I think, ultimately is what I would like to see in our national conversation, and not just in our educational system.